My name's Jeremy Ellis. I'm the CTO of iOctane in Australia. We're the distributors in Australia for Metastorm. iOctane are the business process transformation company, and we specialise in business process. We represent best-of-breed vendors in the modelling space and in the deployment space, being Proforma and Metastorm. So we provide capabilities to our clients to equip them in delivering excellence in process improvement, process deployment and the like.
Okay.
So one of the areas that we specialise in is taking customers from the enterprise architecture world into deploying those processes, where enterprise architecture is used to hold together and understand every aspect about the business that they're in, right through from strategy through to resources, the people, the equipment, the systems that they have involved in their enterprise, how they all come together and how those things interact. And that's a fantastic framework for then deploying those processes into Metastorm. iOctane has developed a process pod which we call the Provision process pod for Metastorm. It enables our users of Provision to take models that they've developed in enterprise architecture context right across and deploy those very rapidly into a Metastorm environment. And it's quite unique. We don't believe that other vendors have achieved this, in that the data structures that are identified and created in the Provision environment are created as variables and forms into the Metastorm designer, such that those processes can be executed immediately if necessary. Typically, one would perform some additional work to deploy those processes, but they are actually able to be executed immediately. We're finding that our existing Provision customers are looking to execute those processes. They've been typically working in the process improvement area for quite some time. They've got to a point where they've optimized those processes, and they are now looking to deploy those processes into a live environment. So that's one type of user. Another type of user that we're finding has great interest in this product are those who are looking to take their processes in Metastorm into an enterprise level, where those processes require more stringent design around them. They need to understand how their strategy is going to drive the development of those processes, the definition of KPIs, for instance, and those processes can then be designed in Provision with the understanding of how they interact with each other and how everything comes together in terms of the deployment scenario they'll be utilising. So those sort of users can then use Provision as a central repository for understanding how all of those processes will work in the enterprise. Well, one of the top benefits in implementing this sort of strategy is that you have a central repository for your process information in terms of how that process, those processes are driven by strategy throughout the business, how those processes utilise resources in the business, how those processes are deployed to different technologies in the business. And of course that gives you the ability to answer some of the difficult questions, such as if we, in a telecommunications environment where a customer typically would have thousands of live systems, when they want to decommission one of those systems, it's usually impossible for them to understand the business impact that will have. For instance, what business processes will be taken offline, what users will not be able to perform effectively, what other systems that might impact. Provision provides the ability to tie all those things together and understand that. So when you deploy into a Metastorm environment, you can then have some visibility of the impact of change in the enterprise environment. Another advantage is that Provision provides automated documentation. So those processes that you've designed and developed in that environment and then deployed into Metastorm are automatically documented, can produce standard operating procedures, online web documentation, compiled help documentation that users can interact with, for instance. There's actually no need to specifically create documentation, it's done for you in the tool. It's also a very rapid environment for development, so that when you have design processes and in the Provision environment, that you can reuse those very effectively. Obviously you can do that in the Metastorm environment, but we provide the ability to do that in an enterprise context and then deploy and reuse those things as libraries into obviously Metastorm, which supports those capabilities. We also have the ability to take scripts as well as forms and variables across from Provision. Once you define data structures in Provision, which is not easily documented in Metastorm currently, those things can be easily understood and communicated in the Provision environment, and that will make up the design of those databases and variables in the Metastorm environment. We've been partnering with Metastorm for quite some time now, and we've found that to be an extremely effective partnership. We have had no difficulty in gaining the support that we need and the technical documentation. It's great to see a product so well documented and such an extensive support set of support channels and capabilities available to us as a partner. And Metastorm have made it very effective for us to invest into the Asia Pacific market in terms of marketing. We've been provided with extensive support in terms of marketing strategies and material and resources, as well as the technology information that's been required for us to develop some of these products that we're working on. The Gartner perspective has been for some time that the business process analysis market, that being the area of enterprise architecture tools such as Provision, and the business process management suite market such as Metastorm, will be combining over coming years. Now, this was envisaged to have already happened. It appears that it's only beginning to be considered by some of the vendors at this point in time. So we're certainly looking forward to the combination of tools such as Provision and Metastorm into the future, where users will be able to understand and comprehensively document their enterprise at all levels of modelling, and then to be able to automatically deploy those processes very, very simply with a full understanding of the impact and the strategy and so on. We see that happening perhaps over the next year or two with many of the vendors in the various markets.